Hello and welcome to Sacred Pause, the Self Healers Podcast. Today we have an amazing guest. She does all the things that I hold so dearly. She's a board certified life coach specializing in self love and mindset. She's also a blogger and she talks about, again, all my favorite things: self love, self esteem, self acceptance, gratitude, and the list goes on. So it's safe to say I'm so honored and grateful to connect deeper with this amazing woman. So without further ado, please welcome Dolby Dubrow to the show. Thank you so much.
Hello, hello,
Hello,
hello.
hello, hello. All right. Well, to begin, I would love to just hear a little bit about your journey and how you got
hmm
into this healing self love space, because I think I've told you a bunch of times already. I think it's the most important.
Well, we kind of come into it through some kind of trauma, or you know, you kind of try to figure yourself out. And I know, coming from a very large family, kind of a crazy dysfunctional family, I was the oldest of nine, so I just felt like I had to get away from that. And then, of course, once I got away from that, I was just out there in the world and meeting all kinds of people in all kinds of situations. But I was always interested in why we think the way we do or why we feel the way we do. And our feelings come from our thoughts. So if we have shame, guilt, or fear, then they obviously activate the feelings inside of us, which, could cause us to back down, shy away, whatever. So, but I always felt like I had a wisdom and I was kind of wise, and I was also outspoken, so I wasn't afraid to say things, and I would be met with a lot of opposition, which I found challenging in the sense that I wanted to rise to the occasion. And so you just made me uncomfortable. Now you're going to be uncomfortable. And, I'm much older now in the journey and I understand stuff because today, to me, there is no other. It's just you and you. So whatever I show up, I'm showing up for myself. So whatever I see in you is a projection of myself. So back then it was more of separation. So you made me uncomfortable, I'm going to make you uncomfortable. And so the beat goes on. And it worked in my favor a lot, and it didn't work in my favor a lot. So I was always on the journey. And then I, got married and stuff. And I was really struggling with an identity crisis. Like, who am I? I went to live with this other family. I had my own family. And then I married my husband. And I was just feeling all kinds of things. And he suggested maybe I should go see somebody. And I said, okay, I wanted to talk to someone. And I did. I went and met a wonderful woman at the time. It was like $2 an hour. It was
Nice.
like $2 an hour, but and she changed my life in many ways. And then I met another lady who was a massage therapist, and I remember laying on the bed, and she says, "What music would you like to listen to?" And I said, "Well, what do you have?" And she had all these CDs, and the one that stuck out was "You Can Heal Your Life." And I went, "What is that?" And she said, "Oh, that's by Louise Hay." And I said, "Oh, put that on." And I cried the whole hour on the table, just bawled
Oh
my eyeballs
man.
out. I was like, "Oh!" And so it was like that was one of the beginnings of a transformation for myself. And then I just got hungrier and hungrier. And like I said, I always felt like I had an innate wisdom in me. I just didn't, was just where it was all over the place. So I started to learn about Louise Hay, and I loved it. I mean, she was just all these like, illnesses that had to relate to how you were feeling about yourself. And so I went on to keep going. Then I went into college to study psychology because all wounded healers go study psychology. And so that was fascinating. So I did that with a minor in um, child psychology, and I was interested, in where we how we come to be. But then, when you get older, you learn that your parents are just working their shit out, and you're there, and they're working their shit out, and you actually, there's like a forgiveness in that, because you're mad at them, you hate them for all the things they're doing to you, and then you grow up. And I remember that when Louise Hay said your parents were struggling and you're in their life, and you put them in your heart, and you realize they're no different than you with their struggles, but they don't know that. They just have kids, and then you're part of that whole story. And then you either grow up and you go, like I wanted to search for, why do I feel the way I do, and why don't I like my mom, and why did my dad do that, and all this stuff. And then there was this big, forgiveness, like I was no longer holding on to a story with that. So my journey went on, and then friends and falling outs and, all of this stuff, and trying to figure out why we do the things we do. So for me, it was just going deeper and deeper. And people would come to me with problems, like, what do you think, or whatever. And I would, um, you know, it's different now how I approach somebody. But then, I tell, yeah, do this, go do that, and then if they didn't do it, it was like, oh, whatever, and then make a judgment about it. But you learn. You can't learn unless you're stumbling along the way and picking yourself up and going, okay, this isn't working for them or me. So then I just went through college, graduated, went on into metaphysics and got a PhD and a master's in that, and did my dissertation on the viruses of the mind. And
Wow.
yeah, it was pretty exciting. And then I never wanted to get into clinical psychology, because I felt like when I first went to this woman, she gave me a diagnosis of self-destructive personality disorder, and I thought that was hilarious. I thought, oh my God, I get to reinvent myself every single day. What a great diagnosis. But then I learned that, and it has its place. Don't get me wrong. Clinical psychology has its place. But for me, it was like not the place I wanted to go. And not only that, I spent like a long time talking about the past, and I really wanted to know how to go forward. I'd already lived that, so I don't want to be sitting in here living this every day. And you can find that therapists, we can become crutches, for people. And I wanted to know how to move forward without having to go take my coffee to the therapist and beat a dead horse. And, nothing changes in my life. So I was the only one that could make that change. So I went into coaching. So I, became a first a certified coach, and then I went on to become a board certified coach, because I just wanted to challenge myself more and see my own personal discipline, because it's a discipline. I didn't need to get coaching or get that to help people. I was always helping people my whole life. My husband would say, you should get paid for that, because I'm always on the phone for hours. I go, yeah.
Yeah.
So the journey's been, and so now it's 68 years old. I had joined up this group, A Course in Miracles. I don't know if you're familiar with that,
Yes. Yep.
but I did it 35 years ago with another friend.
Okay.
And that was, because I was always seeking something. I always wanted to seek. It wasn't just therapy, it was the higher self, what's going on, what's happening with us, why are we here, all that kind of stuff. And the only way to learn anything is to teach it. It's the only way. So when I started to change my mindset, when I was helping people, I was helping myself. So that's, I am the other you. So when I'm giving you all this, it's like, oh my God, I'm hearing myself. This is great. This is great. And so so I joined up this AACIM 35 years ago, and it was like a year I went, and I just thought, okay, and then you move on. I was young. I was very young. So the other things became much more important for me. And so about 2.5 years ago, a friend of mine who's a yoga instructor, she had mentioned that she's very familiar with Course in Miracles. Her father was very invested in it, and so she kind of grew up with that, and she wanted to start a group. Would I be interested? And I said, sure. And then I told a couple other friends, and they came. And so we've been together 2.5 years, and it's changed all of our lives. It's changed how we choose to look at ourselves and the world. and the projections, and it's just the mind that put anything there in the first place, and the mind is the only thing that could take it away. And so I've been on that journey with these ladies every Tuesday for the last 2.5 years. We survived COVID together. We all got COVID together, believe it or not. There was 16 of us that were down when I
Oh,
told you
wow.
I, yeah. So we were all very sick together. But it was so interesting because we all talked every day and we texted, and it was just so beautiful to not be in it alone. And then we all
Yeah.
came out of it together, and here we are. And so I've been doing that and my coaching, which, is just me teaching myself about myself, which obviously helps other people. So it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. I love that you keep saying that you teach other people and then you're teaching yourself, because and that's what soul work is to me. That the work
Hmm.
that really matters. It's all the same. You're helping a friend or a family member. At the same time, you're helping yourself just as much. And I feel
Hmm.
like when people really make that connection, they're going to be more loving to others, more loving to themselves, and then the list will just go on, and then we'll
Hmm.
just be spreading, what matters in this world. So I love that you keep saying that. So self-love, you seem to focus, well, as far as the research I've done on you, self-love seems to be a kind of the highlight of your work. So what is it about self-love that you love so much?
Well, it's kindness to yourself. So often we are prisoners of, well, obviously prisoners of our own thoughts and our own projections that we put out there. So at the other, and when I created the self love page in 2011, and I would just post occasionally like a meme or something, but it was always something that resonated with me. So I would just put it out on the page, and then people would might pipe in or add their own 2 cents to it. And so often we don't love ourselves. We love other people. We love this. We love that. And the self just kind of is just in this container walking around. And when you really know what it's like to really be kind to yourself and have a genuine, heartfelt love, you can have that for other people as well, because then you approach other people and you see them as another you. So why would you want to harm that other person or do self harm? You're only doing it to yourself, when you do it to another person, no matter what. So it's kind of like, that's why I started the page, and then the page grew. It started, one day I said, oh, it just like woke up, and then I have over 37,000 people in the group. They're not all active. I don't know what they're doing. Maybe they just join groups and hang out. I have no clue, but I don't care. I'm not attached to the I'm not attached to the outcome, but
Yeah.
I don't I go in there every single day because I want to just bring something to the table so that it wakes up people, and it is. And I go and I answer everybody that posts anything because it helps me to help them, but it's always the same thing. It's always about the mind. What are you thinking? What are you projecting? How much guilt, shame, and fear? And when you finally realize that you're the only one that can take off all these post-it notes that you have put on yourself throughout the years, whatever that is, and start peeling it away, you can see much clearer who you really are, which is
Mm-hmm.
love. You're
That's
just
it.
love. But we live here in 3D land, so it gets kind of hard when you bump up against your partners or your friends or a stranger or whatever, but they'll always show you where you're at, no
Mm-hmm.
matter what, always,
Totally.
at any
Totally.
given time. Even
Mm-hmm.
if you don't think they're showing you where you're at, that's where you're
Mm-hmm.
at.
Yep. Such good teachers, everybody around us.
Yeah.
Wait,
Hmm.
can we talk a little bit about, you mentioned that you have, I don't, is it a degree in or a minor in
Metaphysics.
and then viruses of the mind? Can we talk about
Yeah.
that?
Well, that's kind of what it is, that we are so infected with what's going on around us. Okay, we could take like the virus, for instance. I don't watch the news, and I'm not saying that with any disrespect to anybody that does. I just don't, because in fact, the joke is I'm in Hallmark hell all the time because I watch these cheesy Hallmark shows with the cheesy kiss at the end because it just makes me so happy. And it's just the fairy tale. So believe it or not, that is just something that's being downloaded into me subliminally, and I'm not even aware of it. So if I was, and I do watch other things like on Netflix and stuff like Animal Kingdom, but
Nice.
yeah, and but it's when I wrote my dissertation, it was really, we don't even know the things that are, because we're so out of awareness, and it's not to be negative, it's just what we do. We just wake up on automatic pilot
Yep.
and just
Hmm.
do what we do, and we're out of awareness, and so we're more vulnerable in the world because we don't even know it. So when you take this virus that came out, and my husband watched the news, but you know I would hear it, and then thank God the house was big enough I would leave. And
Hmm.
people, the subliminal all the time, the fear, and that they downloaded people, and they don't believe it. And then you go out and you start reading this stuff, and people are like separated and divided, and you can see it out there. They want to kill each other over a vaccine or no vaccine, and it's like they don't even see themselves because they believe in a story that was told to them on television. And
Yep.
so it's this little secret thing that comes at you, and you don't even know it. Yeah,
Yep.
I know the difference. Well, no, you really don't. So it's part of the.
Totally. 100%. So yeah, what are some things you do? I believe that everybody should have a morning routine and do something for themselves right when they wake up, rather than grabbing the phone and jumping on Instagram. It's like the worst thing you can do. So what are some
Mhm.
things you do to stay centered and balanced throughout all the craziness in all of our lives right now, especially?
Well, for me, I practice yoga.
Love it.
We redid our garage, so it became, who knew it was going to become the sacred space. So, and
Yes.
my friend happens to be a yoga instructor. So we have a little crew of friends, and so we practice Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have a Course in Miracles on Tuesday, and then I do boot camp. And I was going to boot camp prior to that, so it was all these things that I was doing to be kind to myself and to take care of myself. And raising I have two sons, growing up, and it was always funny. I used to say, "After me, you come first." And I was always met with some of the mothers, "Oh, that's kind of selfish," but it wasn't that. It was, after me, you come first, because when I take care of myself, I'm a much better mom to you, because I feel like my needs are being met and I can meet your needs as well. But if I'm just all in this, I'm going to feel, in my mind, I'm going to feel like I didn't take care of myself. I'm going to feel cheated. I'm going to feel shorted, and then I'm going to get angry. But
Yep.
that's long, a long time ago. So that's one of the things. I get up in the morning, and the first thing I say when I step out of bed is thank you. My 2 feet. It's like a little mind game I do. Thank you. And
Love it. I love it.
I get up, I go into the kitchen, and I like to make myself a coffee. And on the floor, it's charging. I have a muse, and I put the muse on, and I do a 5-10 minute meditation. And it measures the brain waves. So it shows you how calm your brain is. Have you ever heard of that, the muse?
I've I've heard of it. Yeah, I've never used it though.
Yeah, it's really great. And so I did it because I have tinnitus, screaming in the brain or whatever that is. And
Mm.
so it's very loud all the time. And so I was learning to calm the mind. So it's an awareness practice. And I write in my little journal, just a little manifestation book that whatever it is that I'm feeling grateful for, I'm just manifesting more of that as if I already have it. So, not like wishing for something that I don't have, but I already have it. So I do that. Then after I do all of that, I go to self love, and I want to see who wants to join the group, and whatever book I post a book a day, a
Mm.
book I've read or a book I heard of, and so they have an opportunity to look into it. One of my favorite books is When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron. It actually changed my life, because she
Wow.
talks about the impermanence of life, that
Mm.
we
I love
we
that.
cling to our security, whatever that is, our partners, our children, our friends, our lives, our cars, our clothes, our whatever. And all these things are going to change and go away eventually. Nothing remains the same. And we're so gripping and grounded in that. And I had a big upheaval in 2002. So I was walking out of Follow Your Heart one day, and this book, I turned around and it was like I had already bought my stuff, and I said, and it called my name. It's a little skinny book, and I went and I picked it up and I read it in a day, and it just like, oh my God. And it was just, you take a step back and a step forward, maybe two step backs. And so it's a dance we do throughout our lives. We're not good. We're going to get out of here, and maybe some of us will be so enlightened, we'll be flying up there somewhere in a high vibe, and others of us will rise above the battleground most of our lives, because we know it brings us peace. And I think that's really what it is for me, is what brings me peace. And believe me, I have fought every war all the way to get here today. Still not always good at it, but
Mm-hmm.
better, and have more
Mm-hmm.
peace in my life than I do strife in my life. Even through this
Mm.
whole pandemic, this whole crazy making that's been going on out there, I just choose to see it differently. Even
Yes.
getting COVID, I chose to see it differently,
Yes.
and I knew I'd be okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Love it. Oh, I love it. Oh, you're so wise. I love talking to people like you because you're like me. But
Well, thank
you're
you. Yes.
you're wiser than me though. I feel it. So I love it. Okay. When did you first feel like true self-love? That moment where you're like, "Whoa, this things look different. Things feel different." And then like if there's something you can attribute that to, what would that be?
I would probably say where the last 2.5 years when I started back at ACIM, because that structure became different for me. And we became a circle that would bring our situations to the circle. And I started looking at things differently. And I really started to hone in on myself. Like, I am love, like really embracing that, not something that I would talk about. Yes, I love myself, and blow it off,
Yeah.
but to really feel the embodiment of who I am, not this physical body, but something greater than this. And the other thing is that I don't know anything.
Yeah, I
And
say that
that's
all the time.
so liberating, and so
Yes.
much freedom. I know nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know 10 minutes from now, a minute from now, but I do know that I am love. No
Yep.
matter what I do, no
Yep.
matter how I am, I will always be loved. Nothing will change that. Not an angry mood, not an angry situation. I am love, and I will always draw myself back to be kind to myself
Mm. Mhm.
first.
Mhm. Oh, I
So
love
about two
that
and a
so
half years.
yes, yes. I love that because it's such a big statement that covers everything. So once you have that awareness to think that thought, it kind of detaches you from the overwhelmingness life is.
Hmm.
My motto, usually it comes up every day and it really helps me, is there's nothing more important than letting go. Nothing more
Hmm.
important because I've suffered from OCD anxiety for a long time. Up until
Hmm.
recently, I've centered myself in it and I could really manage my mind and my, all the things. Um, and that's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about all this self-healing and self-love work. So I just curious what letting go looks like and means to you.
Well, I like to look at it as a sweet surrender. Like, I just surrender
Yes.
into it, not necessarily. It dissipates on its own, like into the ether, because when I just surrender, it's going to be what it's going to be, and I'm okay. That's what letting go is for me. It's not like, okay, I'm just going to get rid of you, get rid of this, get rid of that, but it's a surrender into what I think it needs to be. And then it just amazing things happen, like miracles
Yes.
just happen, for me. That's what it is for me, because everybody says, just let that go. Oh, I'm having a hard time letting that shit go right now.
Yeah, it's so
And it's
different
a
than
fun.
that.
Yeah, it is. It is different. It's different for everyone, and there's no wrong or right way to do anything. We just do it, and then that's the other thing. We're so hard on ourselves. It's like we beat ourselves up over this, or I said that, or I shouldn't have done this. It's not true. You did what you needed to do. To me, unconditional love It's just being kind to yourself and accepting what is.
Yeah.
And I love Byron Katie because she wrote a book called Loving What Is, and it's just loving everything. I feel like growing up. I think when I was growing up, I remember fuck was my favorite word, and I just said it, fuck, fuck, fuck. And I remember my stepdad said to me, "Why do you always have to use the word fuck?" And I said, "I don't know. It's just a word." And he says, "Oh, it's just not a nice word." And even then at that time, I recognized that was a mindset and a belief.
Yep.
It's just a word. It's just a word, and somebody made fuck a bad word. So now everybody thinks fuck's a bad word. So I went and this was a powerful lesson for me. And I was probably 19, and I remember saying, "Okay, when I'm in his presence, I am not going to say that word, and I am to be very mindful not to say that word." And I did this for like a month and a half. And whenever I was in his presence, I never dropped the F bomb, nothing like that. And then it slipped out. I was doing drugs then, so I think it slipped out. And he goes, "You always say the F
Oh
word." And then
gosh.
I just talk about surrender. I surrendered and I thought, fuck it. I'm never, ever going to censor myself because of somebody else,
There
because
you
of
go.
somebody else's opinion of me. It was never going to happen for me. So when I was telling you earlier that my journey was always for you to show up and me to show up, and I was going to give you something, I gave it back hard. It was like, okay, this is the way it's going to be, because I wasn't going to sell my soul to you so that you'll feel better and now I feel shitty, or you want me to feel shitty about myself and I'm going to accept that. No. And I'm not saying there hasn't been plenty of times in my life I didn't accept that aspect
Yeah.
of myself, or I felt shame and guilt and fear. But as I got older, I started to like, oh, okay, that's a little game and a little virus that we downloaded into our minds. And it's not true. Only if I make it true, it's true. Okay, it's not true. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of how it rolled.
Gotcha. I love that. I love that. And it reminds me of I know you talk a lot about embracing your wild side.
Mm-hmm.
That's like exactly that. And it's so
Yeah.
important to just let let yourself be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, so important. Even if, you say things like fuck, like first of all, that like who cares? But you can also
Mm-hmm.
tend to do things like patterns that hurt people. But if you just
Mm-hmm.
let yourself be uncensored and wild, that's when you'll make mistakes, you'll fail, and you'll learn. It's just so important to give yourself that space to just be
Mm-hmm.
and then learn the big lessons. I feel like that's the only way to truly learn the big
Mm-hmm.
lessons.
Yeah.
Um, so that's an amazing lesson. Do you have any other lessons that come up? Like, what would be your biggest lesson you've learned on your journey so far?
Oh, the biggest lesson I learned in my life, oh, this is a
Yeah.
beautiful one, was when you get in a fight with a friend or whatever, not to run away and go ghosting,
Oh, yeah.
ghosting somebody. And this was a long time ago. I always want to work it out. Even if we have to battle it out, I want to talk. But
Mm,
before, I'd run away.
mm-hmm.
I wouldn't talk to that person for years, whatever it was, just like, and then we'd hook up or whatever.
Yep.
But that was probably the biggest lesson, that communication is key. No matter what the outcome is, at least we talk. And
Yes.
I had an incident with that with my sister-in-law, who I still don't talk to, not because of me, but because we had an incident like 5 years ago. And I said, and then I called her and I said, can we talk? And then I remember saying, let's make a pact that if we ever have, and I'm sister-in-law for 42 years, 43 years, you're going to have and we didn't, have a million run-ins, but we've had a few. And I remember saying, let's always talk. Even if we get mad or we don't understand something, let's talk. Well, something happened, and she fucking like threw me under the bus. But
Mm,
it was bad. And so we haven't spoken in 4 years. But my mother-in-law had some issues, and so my mother-in-law was on the phone and she goes, well, Ellen can explain it to you. And I said, she goes, and my mother-in-law was nervous and she goes, can she? And I said, absolutely, because but the elephant in the room has never been addressed. But it's not my lesson, so I'm okay with it. But if she ever wants to reach out, I'm happy to talk. But she broke that code, and but who knows? Maybe it was my dharma karma coming around at me because I did that to people. So
Mm.
sometimes you get served your dish at another day, but that's
Yeah.
okay. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and it's like
So that
way later. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
way later. But a big lesson: never run away
Yeah.
from somebody. You may need a moment, you might need a day, you might need 2 days, but really get back and say, what happened here, and move it on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm learning every day that relationships, aside from putting yourself first in a
Hmm.
selfless way, not a selfish way. There's a big
Right.
difference. Um,
Hmm.
right after that is relationships. I feel like that's
Hmm.
that's right. That's next up. So, and yeah, it's so normal for us to get into an argument and not
Hmm.
agree, and then just not like cancel. You're canceled. I don't like you anymore. It's just so
Hmm.
destructive, and it's so bad. So yeah, that's huge, and not enough people talk about that. And I feel like relationships, um well, yeah, I just mentioned, I think it's everything right after self-love. But they're like, if you didn't have a relationship with anybody, then what would be the point? It's like, why
That's
am I
right.
even here? So if you're just
Uh-huh.
ghosting people, then you're just really not doing yourself a service. So that's
Hmm.
that's big, and I think about that pretty often. So I love that you said that. Wow.
Well, ghosting
Okay.
seems to be a big thing, and especially with this social media, people block
Tinder.
people.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, all that crap. It's just like it's insane, and people's self-esteem is all tied up in likes and this and that and the other. It's like, holy shit,
Yep.
and it's a big problem.
It's a
And
big
for
problem.
people, it is a big problem, and all these posting pictures and selfies, and then if you didn't like me, I mean, so talk about viruses of the mind. It's like you start getting these mindsets, and it really fucks you up. It can
Yeah.
it can fuck you up. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm beyond that aspect, but even as an adult aging, you got to rein yourself back in. You're all of a sudden you're getting older, and now you could look back at all the youth, and you're like, so you catch yourself and go, there's a wisdom right here where I am, and this is really a great place, and it's only here and now. So
Mhm.
going back there is like the very thing I never liked therapy about was beating a dead horse. It's like be
Yeah.
here now, be here
Yeah.
now. So
Yeah.
liberating.
So liberating. So how do you keep yourself present? Because we're so lucky that we can go in the past in our mind and go in the
Uh-huh.
future, and we could be present. It's so exciting, but it can also really fuck us up. So what are some tools we could use to just stay in the moment where it matters? Like, this is all that matters. What happened in the past? Nobody gives a fuck, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Nobody gives a fuck. I think for me, like to be grounded in the moment is to notice that that I am in the moment. Now, if I go in and watch a Netflix, I get lost in the Netflix moment. But I'm right here, and I think acceptance is really important to stay present. So, like if I'm thinking about something that happened, but I understand I'm here now and I'm accepting it. It's when the past starts controlling your present moment that you lost the present moment. Now you're over here.
Yep.
So when you start, so it's noticing, it's always noticing where the mind is going, because the mind is what put that thought there in the first place. And the mind is the only one that could take it away, because you can only meet yourself and meet life as deeply as you know yourself to be. That's it.
Yep.
So where are you
Oh,
operating from?
so
What
good.
happened yesterday, or are you operating from where you want to be and who you
Yeah.
want to be?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay, so do you have any patterns that you can think of that you like that you've had and that you've overcome because you've been aware of it and then you've just fix it? Anything that comes up for you?
yeah,
I'm big
sometimes
on
shut the
pattern
fuck.
breaking.
Well, yeah, sometimes shut the fuck up. I mean, I'm here and I'm like nervous and stuff. But when I'm with my tribe and I'm out there, I'm my nickname is Lilith. Black Moon Lilith. Because I bring the darkness up to the light. Because I'm not afraid to say anything. But
I love that.
just patterns like even being married. nitpicking and seeing things or pointing out things I don't like and realizing I don't like him, but why am I taking it away from him? Maybe he likes it, so starting
Yeah.
to notice where my mind is going, like like, don't eat that, it'll kill you. It's like, I don't know that to be true, so I'm making shit up. Then I'm putting
Yeah.
that shit out there. So breaking those kind of patterns, like noticing what I'm doing, and is it bringing me peace or is it bringing me, strife? So
Yeah.
yeah, little patterns, like little things like that. And what better way? You can't notice these things without a partner or a friend or whoever, or a
Ooh.
stranger out on the street, or driving in your car and someone cuts you off. It's like, asshole. Oh my God, you're the asshole. Why?
Yep.
They can't even hear you, and you're
Yep.
in the car screaming.
Yep. And if you call someone an asshole on the road, they could be, rushing their wife to the hospital
That's
who's
right.
having a baby. Like, you
That's
don't
right.
know what they're going through. And
That's
that's where
right. That's
compassion
right.
comes in. And then you have compassion for the stranger on the road, you'll have more compassion for yourself. It's just
Hmm.
beautiful dance, and it's amazing practice. So yeah,
Yes,
awareness is just boom, 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 so important. But I also feel like
absolutely.
awareness, a lot of people say, or I used to say this, awareness is the most important thing. And I do feel like it's vital, but it doesn't end there. The hard work
Hmm.
truly starts after you become aware of something, of this pattern you have.
Absolutely.
And then you're
Yes.
like, "Oh fuck, I got some work to do." And then you realize, the deeper you go, the more you realize you know nothing, which is liberating, and at the same
Hmm.
time scary, because it's never gonna end. When you get into the work we're in, it never ends. It just never ends. You'll have breaks and relief, but it's like, oh, here's the next work pattern I got to break, and it's amazing. I wouldn't want it any other way, but damn, sometimes it's so hard. Sometimes
Right.
it's so hard. Do you ever have moments like that, and how do you not give up?
I don't give up because until I'm supposed to give up, and I don't know when that'll be because I don't know anything. But the one
Yep.
thing that helps me is words are powerful. So when you start to realize how powerful you are, not only at something out there, but for yourself, you're a manifester. We're all manifestors.
Yep.
So, like, if we want to have something in our lives, we have to embody that belief and know that whatever we're uttering out of our mouth, we could say, "Oh, I'll never get that," or "I'll never be that," or "I'll never have that." Well, you're absolutely right. And you just created that because you are so powerful and the universe wants to give you everything you want. So that kind of self-talk isn't going to work. So for me, I start to say, oh, did I just say that? Okay, cancel, cancel,
Yep. Yep.
and start to become aware of my dialogue with my life, with my world, with my people, or my thoughts. Like, thoughts are powerful. You can be thinking about somebody and tuning into the frequency of them, and they could be thinking, I just look at you and I. There is no you and I. I am the other you. It's just you and you. So when I start to approach life that way, I have this whole different feeling about life and people and myself. And so I can break patterns. I could be kinder to myself. There, I mean, it's like freedom. It's very liberating. So
Mm, mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you think we can change our thoughts?
absolutely,
What
notice
would
them
be
first.
Yeah, awareness. And then, so what do you think would be the easiest way for people who are starting to get into this, self-help, self-improvement? Like, what's a simple thing they can do when they notice that thought that's fucking them up?
When they notice the thought, don't
Yeah.
resist it. Don't put it away. Make it room for it, because once you
Yeah.
make room for it, there's no resistance there and it dissipates on its own. It's like giving it a seat at the table. Your thought wants to be heard, but instead, oh, I can't, I'm thinking that, I don't want to think that, that's not true. And say, okay, I'm having this thought. And then all of a sudden, it's not all that important anymore. You kind of like go, oh, I'm having this thought. Okay. And that's it. But when you go, oh, I'm having this thought, now we start sticky noting, oh, I'm terrible. Oh my God, I shouldn't have thought that. Oh my God. Instead, just say, I'm having this thought, and then be okay with it. And then all of a sudden, it's not even a thought anymore. You've moved on from it because
Yeah.
what you resist persists. So if you're not resisting the thought that you put there in the first place, it's going to go away all on its own.
Yeah.
So it's noticing, taking the time to just notice it. Oh, hi, hello, and that's
Totally.
it. Just, yeah, give it a place.
Mhm. Mhm. Like, it's coming up for a reason, and instead of
Hmm.
just accept accepting it, we're resisting it, and then burying it deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper.
Mhm.
And then it comes up in years, and then it's some pattern that's just literally ruining and running your life, where
Mhm.
we can just give it some space to heal. It's like
Mhm.
so simple, but we really like to complicate things, don't we?
So I guess that's why, yeah, I always say there's no shame in my game, and I know it's just, it's like, okay, whatever, you have a right to think anything you want, and
Yep.
it's just when I notice that I feel like somebody says something, I notice in me, what's that bringing up for me?
Yeah.
That's what has to be healed. Not you need to change yourself so I'll be happy, but what's
Yeah.
going on here that I need to say, okay, I got to heal this because you get to say whatever you want, be whatever you want, do whatever you want. But if I'm infected or affected by it, that's what I have to notice. And that's where the healing work begins. It's not about
Yes.
you changing or stop saying that, stop doing that. Why do you always do that? And then it'll be a better place for me. No, because now you're uncomfortable. So now we're both fucked. So that's not going to work. That's why I said there is no other. It's just you and you. So when you figure that out, then you start to change that you're going to get exactly what you need.
Yes.
It may not happen right away, but if you stop responding to your partner in the same old way, all of a sudden things are going to start changing. Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow. It's so much more peaceful because
Yes.
you made you can only change yourself. That's it. You can't change other people. You can try.
You'll fail every time.
Well, we'll
Dolby.
die trying.
Yeah, exactly. And no thanks, not me. So I agree with what you said so much. I just got this tattooed on my arm yesterday, so it
Let
has a
me see.
bandage. So I don't know if you can read it, but it says, "I am the medicine." I put it
I
on my arm. So
fucking
here,
love it.
yeah, I put it on my arm because it's the best reminder. Like, no matter what that person or that thing that's happening, I always come back to myself. And I put
Oh,
it on
it's
my arm
beautiful.
because thank you so much.
That is no, really, it is. It's I always
I
say
appreciate it.
I'm the problem and I'm the solution. That's it.
Yeah.
Bottom line, it's
Yes.
like it's not gonna. It really is. You could blame and shame everybody around you, but it's not going to change anything. The only one's going to change it is the mind that put that there in the first place because we sticky note everything. Even I could sticky note you up to death and then show up and I'm going, okay, okay, look at all these notes on her, but I don't see you. I only see
Yeah.
what I projected onto you. And so
Yes.
that's what we have to learn what we're doing. And that's where awareness comes in and you start to notice. That's it.
Yep. 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 Oh, yes, I love you. We're
Yes.
so I'm really curious. Your Paul, your husband, is he on board with all your work? Like, or is he
Oh,
like, how does he feel about all this?
well, he's my best teacher. I'll tell you
Of
that.
course he is, right?
Everyone's your teacher and student. Every day we are teaching and students. It vacillates all day long,
Yeah.
but he always supports me. He thinks I should be some great guru out there. God bless him. But he supports me. But he's been my greatest teacher. I mean, I'm
I
married
love it.
43 years. It's been a
Yeah.
and he's such a nice, him.
Oh, it's so
He's a
sweet.
super he's a
Yeah.
very sweet guy. I have two sweet sons, and yeah, and they've been great teachers for me. I learned so much from my children, so much about myself, my own behavior through my children. It wasn't like I'm the parent, you're the kid. Although I'm sure in the beginning there were moments I was the parent, but then as they got older, I started getting feedback. So that
Oh.
was that was fun. Feedback was fun.
Oh
So
gosh.
even though I stood my ground, I learned so much from them, and I'm so grateful for that. I really am, and I'm a great parent, and they're great children, and they
Mhm.
love me and Paul to death. So Paulie's on board. He's just a great person. We both are, and I think that's why we've lasted in our relationship because we try to tell each other what to do, but we don't tell each other what to do. We have very separate lives, but a life that comes together as a family.
Love it.
So,
Perfect.
yeah, he was in the beginning of our marriage, didn't care for the way I always dressed, but I always didn't care for his thoughts about the way I dressed. So I continued on my path of being very risque and myself, and whatever he thought about it was his problem, not mine. So he's
Love
been a
it.
great teacher. Yeah.
So, would you say Paul's been your greatest teacher?
Um, no, he's not. He's been a good teacher, but no, my friends. I think my friends have been a great teacher. I think they've all been great teachers. My kids, my friends, strangers.
Yeah.
Strangers have really taught me something about myself. If I responded in a way and then they come back, I think about it and go, well, that was unkind. I was unkind to myself, so I was unkind to them.
Yeah, totally.
Not a lot of times, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's interesting that you said basically everyone because yeah, it's all even. It doesn't really even matter. It's just like what's the highlight of the day? What does that sound? Do you hear that?
all of my love.
What is that? Oh, it's your ringtone. I like it.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like a
all of my love.
mariachi band.
No, it's by Led Zeppelin. All of my love.
Oh, see, well, I'm way off. My goodness. I'm way off. Okay. So we'll wrap up a little. So I have
Okay,
a couple questions I always ask my guests. So the podcast is called Sacred Pause. So I'm just wondering what a sacred pause means to you.
a breath.
Oh,
Take a
yeah.
breath before everything. I mean, if
Mm,
we just took a breath before everything, then it's almost like in yoga. It's all about the breath. So for me, that's just what it means. A sacred internal pause. It's just right there.
yep. Yep. It's the quickest way to connect with our hearts and our
Hmm.
minds and connect
Hmm.
the two.
Hmm.
Oh, I have a question. So I feel like personally, my mind and my heart like to battle it out. And I like to live more from my heart than my mind, but I'm used to more my mind than my heart. So what would be like if you have any advice, how to just connect the two more often? Or is it just the breath like I just mentioned?
Well, it's the breath, but it is your mind. Your mind is speaking to your heart. So it's noticing what is your mind talking about that's going to connect your heart to your mind. Because if you didn't have your mind, we'd be unconscious. We wouldn't even be here. It's just a
Yeah.
body. It's just a body. The mind, the consciousness is what counts. And
Okay.
and we and we always say, well, I feel this. No, you don't. You're thinking this, which is causing your feelings. So what are you thinking about that's causing you to feel this way? Yeah,
Yes.
somebody can hit us and we go, but even how we think about the pain we're having has great impact on how we're going to deal with the pain. So it's our mind. If our hearts are broken, what's going on in our minds?
Ooh, a lot of shit, a lot of
Yeah,
stuff. So,
had my
so,
heart broken a lot.
oh, didn't, don't, oh, now that's a great teacher right there when you get your heart broken. Whew, it's a tough,
Absolutely, the best
that's a
the best
tough one.
teacher ever. Yeah,
Tough one. Okay, so I just want to make sure I'm clear. So give it space. Give it
yeah,
space. Listen to it.
yeah,
Accept it. Okay.
yes,
I could do that.
yeah.
I'm already doing that.
Except,
I'll just continue it.
yeah, I could know you're doing that. I could tell. I mean, I'm all over the place all the time, but it's really acceptance. Accepting what is, loving what is. And like I said, unconscious love. People say unconditional love. People have conditions. I'm sorry, you have fucking conditions all over everything all day. Sorry, my gardener showed up.
No worries.
You have conditions on everything. Well, if you do this, that means you love me. If you do this, that means you don't love me. But the truth is, unconditional love is just loving what is. It doesn't matter. Shit's gonna happen all day long. If it didn't, we wouldn't be here. We'd already be transcended somewhere else. But we're here to do the work. That's
Yep.
it. Whatever the work is.
Yep. Yep.
Yep, yep.
Got it. Oh, got it. Okay. Okay. I'm just soaking it all in.
No, you're so cute.
You're so cute. I really love your hair. I already told you like 3 times, but I really love it.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. Do you switch it up the colors, or do you always
Oh,
go
oh
all the
no, I'm
time?
famous. I'm famous for that. Oh yeah, my hair's never the same. Every time I come out, it was blonde. It was real blonde. In fact, I think I can show you how blonde I am. So this was
Let's
my
see. Okay. Wow. Yeah. Very
uh,
blonde, like dirty blonde.
dirty blonde, and then all of
Cute.
a sudden I went in to put a little few streaks of the magenta, and she washed it, and my whole head turned this color. So I'm good.
Good. You're
It's just
keeping it
hair.
fun. Like, what's the
Yeah,
point if we're not having fun?
yeah, it's
Do
just
you?
hair. It'll come out.
It's hair's growing all the time, everywhere,
Hmm.
all the
Hmm.
places.
Yes, yes.
So people, audience, listeners who want to follow you and maybe join your tribe, your vibe, self love vibe, where can they find you?
Well, they can find me on Facebook on Self Love Vibe.
Okay.
And then they go to my blog, www.justanother blah, blah, blah,
I love that.
blog.com. Blah, blah, blah.
I love that. I love that you make it all so playful and fun and not so serious. I have a
Oh, yeah.
issue with making things too serious, so I really enjoy your lightness. I really do.
Well, you kind of when you get older, you learn that really nothing's on. It doesn't matter, it really in the grand scheme of thing, it doesn't matter. And I'm not
Yeah.
to say things don't matter; they should definitely matter. But it's amazing when you look back and go, God, did I really fall apart over that? And it's okay. Just let everything be okay, no matter what. Let all the shit be okay, and then you're free.
Yeah. That's my number one goal every day is to just be free. So, got it. Noted. Okay, you're so quick at the answers. You got them all firing out. So we're already
Did
on my
my
last
best.
question. You're I love it. So I like to open up to my guest a little bit more, and I'm just like, if you have any questions for me or anything else you feel called to share, that would be great. And no worries if not.
Me?
Yeah, if you have any questions for me or anything else you want to mention to our listeners about all your work, self healing.
I should say be kind to yourself. Always be kind to yourself, even when you think you're a little shit, or even if you're in a
Yeah.
bad mood, whatever. And do kind things for yourself, and don't feel guilty about being kind to yourself. Don't feel guilty about going out to dinner or having that extra drink or calling up
Yes.
a friend, and just don't feel guilty about anything. Just do it and don't put anything off, and don't be fearful. What's the worst that can happen? Nothing. So I say that. But how long have you been doing a podcast?
I started a little after COVID started. So
Wow.
how long has it been? Like 2 years, COVID.
Yeah,
Um,
something like
about
that.
so about 2 years, and it used to be called Doggy Style Podcast. It was about animal wellness and whatnot because
Oh,
animals are my everything. But then
aw,
I just was listening to my intuition, and then it kind of transitioned into Sacred Paws Self Healers Podcast.
I
So
love it. Well,
thank
you're
you.
good at it.
Thank you. Thank God for guests like you. We can just
Uh,
connect on the shit that matters. I really appreciate it. And it's my favorite thing to do.
well, one thing I do is just I keep my little goat. Where? How do I get there? My little goat,
Oh,
and I click him whenever I feel like things are happening, and he makes me laugh and his face is so hilarious. He's got his
so
tongue hanging out.
funny.
Look
Yeah.
at his little face, and I just squeeze him, and I laugh.
I love that. I love that. Do you have
Yeah,
any real animals?
I did, but I have my two sons have mini Australian shepherds who I
Oh, nice.
absolutely adore, and I babysit them all the time. They're my grandchildren, and they have the run of the house, and they're fabulous. But I do love animals, and Paul and I will get another pet when it calls to us.
Yeah,
But right
I
now
feel that.
we're busy. We're busy with the grand dogs, so that right now is very fulfilling.
Nice. And I bet your
Mhm.
sons are so grateful when you watch them. When they go
Oh
out of
yeah.
town, do you watch them?
All the time. I just
Oh,
had Cooper. Cooper's 8 months old, and I just had him for 5 days. So
oh.
yeah, I'll take care of him. Anytime they want, they can drop him off.
That's literally because it's expensive to get dog sitters nowadays.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like a blessing. You're a
You have a
blessing.
dog? You have a dog?
Paige and I have 3 dogs and 2 cats.
Oh, they all get along. I take it.
They all get along. They all have their moods and whatnot, but they get along. And we already have our eyes on a cow and a pig.
Oh, I
but
love it.
but we're not allowed to have it. We're in a neighborhood, so
Um,
our long term goal is a house in the mountains with farmland, and we're just gonna adopt all the animals. That's our dream. So
wow, that's wonderful.
thank you.
I love goats.
I love that's so cute that you have that. I
But
love it.
there's goats that live down the road. There are a million of them, and they eat up all the ground. And I pass them all the time. I always go, "Hello, goats." I love them. I think they're so cute.
That's cool. Wait, where do you live?
I live in Thousand Oaks, but by
Okay.
there's a Catholic school, and they have a lot of property there, so they bring in all these goats that are out there eating the ground, so they I guess they're the lawnmowers or something, I don't know,
Oh, well, that's cool.
but
You get to enjoy them
I do
as you
every day.
drive.
I pass them, like, a couple times a day, so when I'm
Love it.
out.
Good. Good. Ah, well, Dolby, you're the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you and I appreciate all the
Mhm.
work you do because
Thanks.
you're doing work that actually makes a difference and that's just all that matters to me. So thank you.
Thank you.
And without further ado, Dolby and I are here to remind you that you have everything inside of you to feel better, to be your best self, and to create the life that you deserve. Thank you so much for listening or watching, however, you're listening to us today. And we will see you next week. Love you.